Nope.
Where were you born and raised?
New York, Long Island. Long Island. I grew up on Long Island. I found Washington College in 1968. Fell in love with the ivy brick walls, the concept of professors who had a large percentage of them had doctorates, and the course structure of four credit courses. Right. And so I said, yeah, this is me. And, you know, frankly, Long Island, where I was, Eastern Long Island, is very much like the Eastern Shore in a way. I mean, there were a lot of people who immigrated from New York in the 30s and 40s. They sold off because of Robert Moses and the development. Right. And they came down here. So in that sense, it was kind of a logical place to come. And, you know, I really never went back. Well, I went back very briefly to New York until I got into law school, which was the University of Baltimore, because of the dean said, you should go to law school, Lynn. So the dean of Washington College. So I applied to University of Baltimore, got in on a winter semester because they had half-year semesters. And, you know, after all that time, there was no sense of going back to New York. And you know, this is where I wanted to, I didn't want to be a corporate lawyer or, you know, be in Baltimore. I wanted to be here on the Eastern Shore. And was fortunate to find a position here, and the rest is history.
Yes.
Well, I started off like most lawyers did at that time, as general practitioner. I mean, I did a little bit of, you know, title searching and all that stuff, a little bit of workers' comp. But as the profession progressed, you really had to have an area of concentration, and I became a family law attorney, which also had a diversity to it that I liked, which was you were a little bit therapist, you were a little bit financial planner, and then a little bit, you know, advocate extraordinaire. So, yeah, there were some attorneys who, you know, were a challenge, and then there were others that were reasonable, you know. And then the whole area of the law changed with mediation and other things, and self-representation. So they tried to tone it down, you know. And we had several judges also that saw the detriment of custody cases and how that destroyed children, particularly Judge Souse, who would just across the board, I'm ordering joint custody unless you prove to me that, and that really helped a lot, I think, the bitterness that was often associated with custody battles. Yeah. I've been here since 1979. 1979. Amazing. I got involved with a lot of community activities, you know, from being on the board of the Home for Aged Women, which is, I was a founding board member and treasurer for the Midshore Council on Family Violence. I mean, I knew Gail, who started it. It was her project, and so I was involved with that. And then just a number of nonprofits. I did, you know, a stint with hospice. I did a stint with a lot of them. Mental Health Association, there was at one time. So I always paired that with the practice of law because that was the right thing to do. You know, I have campaigned for various candidates, so from that standpoint, a variety of candidates. You know, I really got drawn into public service when I retired in 2016, and it started with the Easton Club where I live and the golf course, and it's that, and so that caused me to have contact with the town officials and employees, and I learned a lesson about how town government works. And then I went from that to the Talbot boys. I mean, I started writing articles defending, well, not really defending the Talbot boys, but putting out the history. And that got me, you know, in contact with a number of people, and we formed Preserve Talbot History. And so from that, I learned how the county government works. And then, a number of other things like more recent, what's happening with TRAP and what's happening with a number of other things. And so I said, well, why not? Well, I think, number one, I've had the longest residential connection with Talbot County. Number two, I think that I'm the longest Republican, because when I came here, I registered as a Republican. I'm doing some research, and I'm not prepared at this time to reveal that, about who has voted and who has not voted in past elections that is running for office. But so from that standpoint, I think I have a long history here with the Republican Party and its principles. Well, number one, protecting the environment and curbing overdevelopment, like the Lakeside project. Number two would be to have more control over the education system. I mean, it's really controlled by Annapolis, but I think we can assert more power over how the Board of Education works. One of my ideas was to establish an education advisory board so that all the parents who are concerned about what the schools are teaching would have a way to get more information about it. I'm also supportive of protecting law enforcement. I've had long conversations with Sheriff Gamble, and I'm really concerned about that police accountability ordinance that's going to be enacted and how that's going to affect our policing here to our detriment. And so I'd want to work on something, because I think there's some flexibility in the ordinance that they could enact, but I think that's really something that the present council is going to do. So, and then, parental rights is a big issue. So those are the primary issues. And I think there'll be others that come out of the blue, I mean, one of the issues I see rising, and the current council has talked about it, is what they're going to do about that merging from Easton Parkway going north on Route 50. Is it going to be an overpass? What are they going to do about that? And I've just noticed in the past few weeks that the traffic here has been horrible, and that, I think there are major transportation issues that may be arising. So that's sort of what I see. There's only so much we can do because so much of it is controlled by Annapolis, but I'd like to hold them at bay and not invade us too much.
Are there specific things that the former council has done that worried you, or maybe it was in terms of education, or is it more just reform, or do you want to be proactive in certain areas?
It's probably preserving it as it should be, listening to MDE, making MDE do their job. So it's that sort of thing, the oversight that we have. One of the things that concerned me was, and I know it started with the smart growth back with Glendenning, where the towns sort of have authority to have development to the exclusion of maybe county input into it. And so you have situations that happened in TRAP, which is basically 246 people decided that to annex a property that eventually became a 2,500 homes. And so something has to be adjusted with that. There has to be more input by the county than I think presently exists. I was, did marry into a Talbot County farm family, the Mielkes from the Tunis Mills Mielkes, because they always say, well, which Mielkes? But So the Tudis Mills Mielkes. And so I learned a lot from them about farming and the importance of agriculture. And in fact, my father-in-law, I have this picture of him on one of my brochures, was a farmer, dairy farmer, 400 farm. And he also was a hunter that took Bing Crosby and Phil Harris hunting in trap. And as a result, that was on American Sportsman in the 60s and 70s, and really opened up Talbot County to hunting and some tourism. So, I mean, I just adore that connection. So that was, I'd like people to know that, really committed to this area.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I know it's, my hat's off to anybody who runs for public office.
I do, I really do.
Thank you.